Hey everyone, welcome back to the Radical Care for Christian Counselors podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Boring, and just to make sure that you are in the right place, which you are, I just want to explain what this podcast is about to get you started. So if you're a Christian counselor, a mental health professional, a pastoral care leader, but also if you're one of those people that just find yourself in one-on-one connections, whether it's a session, whether it's a counseling session, whether it's coaching, whether it's just with your kids, if you find yourself in those situations and you enjoy them, but yet they also drain you, this is what this podcast is for. It's for those that are really passionate about the deep work, about the heart-to-heart connections with other people, but how to do that in a way that we can do it in community with one another, so we're not alone. If you're interested in that, that's what Step Out and Thrive does. I have several different groups, and I work with counselors, mental health professionals, pastoral care leaders on a professional level to make sure that A, they know how to facilitate a group well, but B, that they also get to experience that for themselves so they can meet continually with people, but also they can give out or they can pour out without giving out. And so I hope that makes sense. I love communities. I love all the amazing groups that we get to do. And it's just life-giving. I wouldn't have it any other way. I get to do what I absolutely love, which is amazing. So on this series, we are focusing on cognitive distortions. Now, if you're like, what? And I know it's so neat because I have such a broad range of people who watch this and listen to this podcast, which I absolutely love. So I have some of those that are in professional professions like counselors, mental health professionals, therapists, coaches. I mean, those that are really sitting down with people on an every day-to-day basis, even pastors that find themselves in counseling situations that are going, that want to do a better job at like sitting well with people. So I have that group of people and I can relate to them and I work with them pretty much on a daily basis. But then I also realized that I have others that aren't quite like, they don't do this on a professional level, but they just want to get better at being with people. And they want to do things on the mental health level and the spiritual health level and the relational health level to really engage better with other people and themselves. And so if you're in any of those camps, I want you to know that this next series is going to be perfect for you. Now, this is what's going to make this series different. One, we are going to talk about negative thought patterns, cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions really are talking about taking your thoughts captive. And I know we read that verse and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But I think a lot of times we put the pressure on who? Ourselves. I don't know about you all, but that literally goes into a cognitive distortion that it's all up to me. And we're going to get to that today too. But there's so many different thought patterns that once you're aware of, it helps you become aware of not only in your own day-to-day verbal thinking or written processing, but you can be aware of it when you hear it from your kids, when you hear it from your spouse, when you hear it from teachers, when you hear it from those around you. Not that you have to fix any of that, but that the way that hits you, you can be aware of what other people are walking through. You can weigh, okay, God, is this truth? How do you want me to take in these words that I'm hearing? And how do you want them to really plant? Like, how do you want me to walk this out? And so each week in this series, we're going to talk about a cognitive distortion, which you can look up the list. We're going to go through all the 10 top ones. But here's what we're really going to do. I'm going to share this is the first session of this, and I agreed with God that I would do this. So he's like, hey, if you're going to share these cognitive distortions, you really need to share how I, talk about him, have been leading you through this in your journaling. And I'm like, wait, I don't know about sharing my journal on my podcast. Like, did I really hear you right on that? And so honestly, this has been on my mind and on my heart for a while when he mentioned this to me a while ago. And I was like, I'm not ready. And then I had a really good friend who we started just really labeling a lot of our journal entries with our cognitive distortions. Like, Bethany, this is amazing. Like, we have to start getting this out to people. And so when that happened, God really started speaking to my heart. He's like, I already told you what to do, not in a condemning way, but he's like, so you ready to have some fun? So I'm finally giving in. And I think we lead by example, right? We lead by the areas that we struggle in. And can I tell you something? You will never find the day, and I don't think I'll ever find the day, where I've got all these cognitive distortions mastered. It's simply to just be aware of. I use this analogy a lot, and some of you guys have already heard it. But before you can make any changes in your life, you have to be aware of what's going on around you. And that awareness place takes a bit. Man, I wish that was really quick to happen. Because if you're like me, I'm like, okay, let's fix it. But really, the more aware we become of something, the more deep the extra change can go. And so I use the analogy of walking my kids into the room, and they might not see a mess, but I can look around and see like underwear hanging from the ceiling fan, games thrown all over the floor out of the boxes. I mean, their mattress literally lifting off the frame of the bed because there's so much stuff underneath there. I would say that that's a messy room. But until it gets to the point where they can see the mess, where they can see how it bothers and how it's making their life harder, only then will they be motivated to even do anything about it, to want to do anything about it. And so that's what that awareness phase really is. So I want you to take these next couple weeks, not as condemnation, but I'm going to welcome you into my story. I'm going to share with you a little bit about how God has been working with me through my journal entries. And then I'm going to throw it back to you and say, okay, each week I want you to listen for these cognitive distortions. And I want you to just be aware of what they sound like and what they hear like. So when you're in groups or you're in sessions with clients or when you're listening to your kids, you can be aware of what's coming at you and you can be aware of what you're thinking and you can go, okay, this is what I'm having and I know it's not the truth. God, what do you have to say to this? Man, it's powerful. So I want to take you to the main passage that we're going to come referring to during this whole series, and it's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Now, I'm going to keep it real here. I don't normally study the amplified version, but if I'm really trying to get to the meat and potatoes of like, what is this saying? Although I love the message version, I love the ESV, I love the NIV, I'm even starting to like the KJV a little bit. It's wearing on me. I'm starting to enjoy it. But the amplified version, oh my goodness, you guys, I love the parentheses. I love the way it does this. I love the way it explains what's going on, and it almost invokes my curiosity. It's almost like somebody's like reading the text, but then somebody on the side's like, yeah, but this is what that means. Thank you. I need you. Like, I wish that person was there in my Shakespeare like experience, because I would read Shakespeare. I'm like, I have no clue, bruh, what you're talking about. Like now they have like, chat GPT that can tell you exactly what's going on. We didn't have that back in my day. I'm just kidding you. Jeez, that was like hard. So this is like kind of like the Cliff Note version of what's going on, and they allow you to do this. So if you haven't got to the amplified version, check it out. It's really hard to listen to, but it's really good when you're trying to like really get into it. So this is Paul talking. He's in 2 Corinthians, and I'm going to jump to chapter 10, verse 4, okay? The weapons of our warfare are not physical. Parentheses, weapons of flesh and blood. We know that the weapons of our warfare that are really going on right now have nothing to do with guns and knives and flesh and blood that are really going on. But here's what it is. Our weapons are divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. Oh my word. Destruction of fortresses. This is huge, guys. Fortresses are the main protection, are the main grounding, are the main foundation of some of the struggles, of some of the warfare that's going on. So when he's talking about, hey, this is going to destroy things, this is going to destroy fortresses, it's going to go down to the root level. This is verse 5, and this is the one that a lot of people quote. We are destroying sophisticated arguments in every exalted and proud thing that sets itself up against the true knowledge of God. And we are taking every thought and purpose captive to the obedience of Christ. Now, it keeps on going. being ready to punish every act of disobedience when your own obedience as a church is complete. So basically, what that's saying is, hey, we're being aware of what's going on. We know that God has given us the power in Him to really dig down to the roots of the real truth that's going on. Not only just expose the lie, but to, my goodness, take down the lie in its roots and throw it out. God has given us the freedom that we can actually offer to other people. So when we're talking about cognitive distortions, which I know is a psychology term to a lot of you all, I really want you to hear this in a way of going, if you know that you have the power to really help others and help yourselves cling onto the truth, I want you to see this as weapons that you can use. When we're listening and we're really walking this out with God, and you can start noticing, oh, wait, that's not true, because that actually resembles all or nothing thinking, like we're going to talk about today. That resembles a cognitive distortion. So you're not like sitting there with that mindset. You're going, okay, God, what do you have to say to me about that? Like, I know that's not true. I know that how that fits in here. What do you have to say to me about it? So when we're talking about cognitive distortions today, the very first one we're going to talk about, and I've already given it out, is all or nothing thinking. So in my journal entry just a couple of short days ago, it's like this one, just like as I was writing it, I'm like, I didn't even know what cognitive distortion this is, and I don't give a care right now because I just need to journal. And so I don't know if you've had that. And that's a hint too, by the way. Give yourself freedom to just let go when you journal. It is one of the most amazing, freeing things, whether you're speaking it out, whether you're writing it out. So powerful. So I'm writing this out. We had just had a hurricane. So as I'm recording this right now, Hurricane Milton hit about a week or so ago. And so we just had a hurricane. And right after the hurricane, I got sick, like really, really sick. And so I even had to go to the ER. And so, but meanwhile, I had all this business stuff that I was trying to take care of. I had a couple speaking engagements going on. I'm leaving next week for Virginia for my last, I think, speaking engagement for this year. And so there was just so much stuff going on. And I used the phrase, God, I feel like I'm on a never ending treadmill. That's the key. I'm never going to catch up. And I used that phrase twice. And I knew exactly when I said it, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I know this is all or nothing thinking, but I don't care. This is how I'm feeling right now. And oh my goodness, so many times I feel overwhelmed. So many times. This has been a continual all or nothing thinking has been the most prominent cognitive distortion that has caused me more setbacks than anything that I can imagine. It really has. And I am so thankful for these tools that are here now to be able to realize, wait a second, there's more going on here that just beats the eye. This gives us permission to have other people question what we're saying. And so what I do is, my process is, when I'm journaling, I either do something on my phone now, because you guys know I have struggled seeing. And so I can't do a whole lot of handwriting stuff anymore, which was hard at first, because there's a lot of psychology that goes into the healing that actually happens when you physically have to write things out. But I do have a tool that's going to be featured in every single one of these episodes for those that are interested. No pressure at all. But one thing I have used is a tool called Rosebud. There's an app, and then it's also online, and you can literally talk out your entries, or you can put anything into that you want. You don't have to put even the whole thing in. You can even put bullet points in. You can have a guided journal entry if you want to. There's so many things that I've done with that. I'm not going to go into all of that. Okay, maybe I'll do a whole separate episode on just the Rosebud tool. But the one thing I'm sharing here is that it has helped me really allow myself to be free during my journaling time and just get everything out, and then input some of the stuff later into Rosebud and go, oh, wow, I didn't see that. And then I don't just take that as truth. I take that into my quiet time and with God, and I go, okay, God, can you speak to me more about that? Is that true? Is that a pattern that continues on in my life? And then I can use, that tool combined with my journaling time to really, it's almost like going to the counselor every day and going, okay, God, what do you have to say to me about that? And so it's not 100% foolproof. It's very much whatever you put into it and whatever you put into Rosebud, and then what you do with God. and just sitting with God and all of that. So that is my process that I go through. And so on this day, I knew that I put that in there and I knew what the connotation was. And so when I went to Rosebud and I put that all in there, and I just felt when I got to my ending time, and I always end, okay, God, what do you have to say to me about all of this? And one of the very first things he told me, get off the treadmill. Treadmills don't go anywhere. I never put you on that treadmill. When did that happen? And that hit me hard because I felt like I was doing a lot, but really not going anywhere. Almost like everything was spinning out of control. And it happened. I mean, we had the hurricane. We had a bunch of business things that I had to put on hold. I had to move clients around. We had electric go out. I was in I went to the ER for a little bit. I had speaking engagements. I mean, there's just so many things that were just everywhere. So yeah, part of me, I did feel like I was on a treadmill, but he wanted me to step off. And so I took time with him to literally emotionally step off the treadmill and let Jesus hold me. And then also just relationally step off the treadmill and go, okay, God, like, I'm not sure how I got on here and I don't have to figure all that out right now. But I'm listening and I definitely don't want to be on the treadmill anymore because I'm so tired. I just got to sit with him. And you know what he did? It was amazing. He's like, you were never really on the treadmill, Bethany. And you guided me through my last couple entries. So many people that I've connected with, so many different experiences that I've been able to have. So, Bethany, you are going farther than you even realize right now. But you're so focused on all these things that are way outside of your responsibility. And you're making one judgment about this being a never-ending treadmill that you're never going to get out of here. That's all or nothing thinking. I want you to know that I'm giving you the freedom to sit with me. And I want you to know that you don't have to do it all by yourself anymore. And I want you to know that you don't have to get back on the treadmill. With me, we're going to definitely get some steps in, but we're going to be going places. And it might not be the places you want to go. One tool that I use for this specific all or nothing, when I realize it, is if I can't really just sit with God in those moments and just really just go back and forth with him, I do realize when I get to all or nothing, I give myself permission to step back and go, okay, I know there has to be some gray area here. So I take whatever it is that I'm going up against, because it's usually a lot of different circumstances, and I just start writing all of these things out. Because usually my big problem is why I say, I'm on a never-ending treadmill, or this is not going to change, or this is never going to change, is because I haven't really taken the time to really list out everything that's going on. And so one thing that I've done is taken the time to just stop in the middle of the craziness and just write down everything that I feel like is my responsibility that I have to get done, whether it has to get done that day or not. And that really helps solidify the whole all or nothing. It's like, wait a second. This is like crazy what I'm trying to do. It's not even reasonable. But also, I can't control this and this and this. But for this project, I know I can break this down and do this. And so it's really helped me. So I want you to walk away with a couple different things. One, all or nothing thinking. You know what it sounds like now is that real big, there's no gray. It's either black or white. So the all or nothing is just like, hey, it has to be this way or it's not going to be worth anything. And so you know what that sounds like. So do you hear that in yourself? Do you hear that in some of these other conversations that you're having. And sometimes, I will say this, sometimes it can come across as like a ha-ha sarcastic joke almost. But deep inside, it's ringing as true. So it's a good thing to even question that. But also, it might be a good activity if you notice this in yourself to sit back and go, if you got time, sit back with God and go, God, what do you have to tell me about that? I'm believing this completely about my circumstances right now. I don't want it to be either one way or the other. I want to see what you're seeing. Can you show me the gray area in this? What does this look like? And if you can't get to that point, if you're like, I can't hear God right now, take what it is that you're running against and write it down and write everything down, or really go like, what is my all or nothing that I'm struggling with? God, can you speak to me about that? Because like I said, for me, my all or nothing was a huge to-do list, a huge things, feeling overwhelmed. That's what my all or nothing was really dealing with. And so it might take some time for you to like really sit with that. Notes apps are my key for a lot of times like that. So hopefully this is helpful for you. You can also find a list of cognitive distortions anywhere probably on the internet, but I'll also try to put a link in the show notes as well each week. And I'll go ahead and create like a PDF of some of the cognitive distortions that you can grab. And when you're doing journaling or when you're doing your quiet time, just something to keep aware of. And some people have even done a cognitive distortion that they're struggling with and went ahead and wrote out the opposite. That's a powerful exercise too. So we're going to get to more next week. This was just a general introduction and covering the all or nothing. So again, I hope this was a help for you. And I can't wait to dive deeper into some of my realities, some of my journal entries with you, and would love to hear back from you. So do you struggle with all or nothing thinking? Have you heard it? What does it sound like to you? And what tools and resources have you come up with that have helped you really deal with that and to pull out the truth? Remember, God has given us the power, you guys, to go down to the root level. He is with you. He is the great counselor, and he's not done yet. Dare to do more than just survive. Step out and thrive. Go chase his beauty today.